Today we're going to be talking about altitude training and if it does really elevate performance at sea level. I'm Joe,
I'm Jessica.
and there has been several theories, and what people believe throughout the years is that training at a higher elevation can help out aerobic capacity and aerobic endurance events when at sea level.
Many people actually may have no idea what altitude training even is. Well, we're here to answer that question. So, what is altitude training? Altitude training is training at a higher elevation than at sea level, which may change performance when competing at sea level. Now, this has some truth to it, but Joe and I are here to dive deeper into altitude training and its effects on the body during aerobic endurance at sea level.
So, for instance, we'll take athletes from different parts of the country. So let's take Denver, Colorado, for example, like the Denver Broncos. They're always going to be at a higher level because they're called the Mile High City for a reason. So they will always be at a higher elevation when training. Now, when they do away games, they actually have better aerobic capacity because they are at below sea level when their body's actually used to above sea level.
Does altitude training improve sea level performance? Well, first, altitude training evokes substantial tissue hypoxia, which is reduced oxygen supply. It is thought to be essential for initiating the conditioning response. Then, second, the altitude induced training increases the red blood cell mass and the hemoglobin content and improves oxygen delivery on return to sea level.
So, is there any negative effects or drawbacks of altitude training? Well, studying athletes at altitude poses additional problems because they are often unable to train at the same intensity of effort as when at sea level. Also, living and training at moderate to high altitude often causes athletes to dehydrate and to also lose muscle mass. So, as you could see here, there's a man who's training, he's running with what we call a training mask on that mimics altitude elevation. So a lot of people will use these masks when they train to help improve themselves, so they think. Studies have shown that it might differ, but we'll talk more in depth about that as we go on.
So, live high and train low. The studies have shown that it has improved both male and female runners within the study. Being acclimated to high altitudes while training at low altitudes increases the oxygen. The expenditure while training because they can go through more vigorous training opposed to live low, train high, where they are acclimated to low altitude and cannot train as intensely as they did.
Okay, so now we'll be talking about the effects of live low, train high. We just talked about live high, train low. Now we're going to switch up the gears here. So athletes have taken part of altitude training while living at sea level to improve their aerobic performance. Hematologic data was taken before and after the 6 weeks of training, and daily hypoxia for 30 minutes was not sufficient to elicit increased erythropoiesis. So to kind of simplify the difference between live high, train low and live low, train high is if you're living high, your body is naturally going to be acclimated to those effects, and then it'll be so used to it that when they train low, it'll be easier and they can get more out of it. It's like walking around with a weighted vest, and then when you play a game, like let's say a basketball game, you can jump higher. So that kind of has the same effects.
Training with products that mimic altitude training and competing at sea level. The artificial altitude training, such as masks and even specialized facilities, do still improve athletic performance when competing at the sea level. This may be different psychologically due to the differences between the natural and artificial environments, such as if you're going to climb Mount Everest, you're not going to get much out of it if you're in a treadmill or in a box or something.
So, to elaborate on that, to talk more in depth on the artificial elevation kind of mass and facilities that they might have out there, if you are training for a marathon or even like just a 5K where it might be in the woods, like you're a cross country runner, and you just have that mask on and you're in a treadmill 24/7, and then you go out into the actual track and it's bumpy and it has all this scenery and all this environment, that can really psych someone out psychologically.
Okay, so during the altitude training, the VO2 max, as well as even the body's muscular metabolism, will also be affected. As we said before, the individuals who do the different types of altitude training will also tend to even lose more muscle mass due to the elevated muscular metabolism.
So there will be different sports that are going to be beneficial to altitude training, as long as we said before, you live high, train low. But there will be some sports like that will not necessarily benefit for it entirely because of the different training programs, such as what's pictured here, an offensive lineman. He will definitely benefit more due to weight training and some endurance activities.
Okay, so in conclusion, the altitude or hypoxic training has benefits for individuals' aerobic fitness. Altitude training has effects on the human body, specifically when it comes to VO2 max and then muscular metabolism. Also, the artificial altitude training methods have been known to have the same effect as natural altitude training, except, of course, that it's actually the environmental difference. It has been proven within the research articles that we use in this project that the live high, train low method has also become more successful than the live low, train high method due to the acclimation of an individual's lifestyle and the correlation that has with the individual's intensity level during their training. Also, the altitude training is meant for serious, mature athletes, so please do make sure you contact your physicians or other professionals that specialize in this altitude training so you do not injure yourself or anything bad can go wrong.
So all this information that we presented to you is factual based off these citations here and all of our references. But we will say, don't just take it from us. You want to also do the research yourself and get more acclimated to this type of training. And again, consult your physician if anything, but also make sure to do your own research because don't just take it from us.